Welcome to the Daily Bread Podcast, where we talk faith, finances, and the foundation of building real wealth. Your host is Aaron Smith, who is your financial design coach, and is bringing you strategies that feed both your pockets and your purpose. Now listen, this podcast is for educational purposes only. Aaron is not providing legal, tax, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified professional for your specific financial situation. That said, let's get into the real talk. Because money is more than money. It's personal.
If you will, if you could prepare yourself with something to write with, something to write on as I share with you this evening. Once again, always excited about sharing strategies that would allow you to build wealth. Let me say this, and I think it's important to make a note of this. Is many times there's so much content out there now that's designed to make you or to allow you to feel that there are multiple ways to build wealth. There are lots of content. And to be quite frank with you, there are multiple ways that you can build wealth for yourself and your family. There's tons of ways that you can do this. I just don't believe that everything that's being introduced on social media, in traditional media, applies to you, and second, is not always telling the full truth about what's necessary to get you to where you want to be financially. One of the things that I pride myself with, I am a 61-year-old father, grandfather, husband, business owner, investor, author, have done financial wealth planning, financial wealth coaching for a little bit over 32 years. This podcast is designed for everyone who wants to come in and wants to learn how to build true wealth. I specifically designed this podcast for high income earning Black folk. Let me say that again. I created this podcast for highly income, that's $150,000 a year in income, up to $500,000 a year in income, educated, degreed Black folks. And the reason that I designed this platform for you is because over the last 32 years, I have witnessed two things when it comes to high income earning Black folks. Is that one, the majority of you are doing very well. You're very intelligent. You're very in tune to what's going on. But you haven't built the wealth that you believe that you deserve. And there are reasons for that. The top reason, the number one reason for this, it's not your fault. You have not figured out how the American economic system works. So it has restricted you from building the wealth that you desire to have as it relates to the amount of income that you have earned. Number two, some of you have built wealth. You have built tremendous wealth. You have built wealth. You're satisfied with the wealth that you've built, with the income that you've earned, but you're unorganized on how to take that wealth and put it in a way that fits you, that feels comfortable for you. It's like a glove. You're prepared to live your best life financially, but you're not sure exactly how to maximize your assets and how to minimize your costs, minimize your taxes, and also be able to seed your wealth on to the next generation. So that's why I started this podcast. This podcast, as you know, is called Daily Bread. I do a short video, 30-second video every day, every single day, that gives a little bit of a topic on financial terms, financial ideas, things you can think about every single day that's going to allow you to get better with your money. And this is so important. It's more important today than it's ever been. We are under attack. And the way that you guard yourself, that you protect yourself, is that you have to be economically sound. And if you're economically sound, you have multiple streams of income, you position yourself to live your best life, you're going to protect yourself and your family from where we are today in this country. I will say that I am living my best life. It doesn't matter the noise that's going on around me. I'm living my best life. And I'm living my best life mainly because I have figured out, I have learned, I have now understand how the American economic system works. And I'm using that American economic system to my advantage and for my family's advantage. As you are on your journey, you have to have an advantage. That's why I started this podcast. This session, I'm going to have a conversation about inflation. Why does everything still feel expensive? There's some truth to feeling expensive. I'm not downplaying that things are expensive. But what you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Prices are not going to come down. How do you know, Aaron? Because I understand the American economic system. And I understand what are the tools and the things that you do to mitigate this system. So let's talk about inflation. It's come down a tad bit, but things are still very expensive. They're still expensive. You know, in our country, this country right here, USA, we have a judicial system, political system, educational system. We have a faith-based or spiritual system. These are the systems that we have. And if you start thinking about it, think about the time that you were a little boy, a little girl. And if you can remember, if you could go back in time and remember the first time that you ever sat in a classroom and you were taught something. I want you to think about that. Go back for just a moment. And as you go back and you start thinking about it, start thinking about all of the classes that were designed and required that you had to complete before you were able to advance to the next grade. I want you to think about that for a moment. It's part of this economic system that I'm talking about. It's part of this inflation, this cost of living, things being expensive. I want you to follow me, if you will. I want you to think about it for a moment. So you're going back, depending on your age, you didn't have kindergarten. You may have started at first grade like I did. But nevertheless, as you went through grade school, advanced to middle school, on to high school, and even to some of the finest colleges, in this country, I want you to think about all of the classes that you had to take and get requirements of some type of certification or credit for before you advance to the next level. You had to learn about judicial. That judicial class was somewhere in there. It may have been combined with something like history, but it was there. You had to learn about the system, judicial system, right? In class, you had to take politics, something that had to do with politics, right? I'm going somewhere with this because I think this is so important. And I think this is why, and I trust to believe this is why in the Black community, as well as other communities, but specifically in the Black community, because that's where I'm talking about. That's why I started this podcast. Is that there are some systems put in place to determine how much wealth you're going to build in your lifetime, and it's very restrictive. Is very restrictive because there only are so many of individuals. There's only a small number that's going to reach that pinnacle of wealth, true wealth. I'm not talking about income because income is not wealth. Just because you have a $300,000 a year income doesn't mean that you have wealth, because when you lose that $300,000 income, the question is, can you have the same standard of living without that check? Without that income, without that job? And most of you, absolutely you can't. So you're living rich because you have a high income, but you're not wealthy. And that's what Aaron is talking about. So you just go back for a moment. Think about all the classes. Go back and pull your report card. Pull your schedule of classes and look at every single one of them. Judicial, politics, history, mathematics, reading, right? Huh? Y'all follow me here. Okay. And even if you were going to your church, your faith-based organization, I know I went to Bible study, Bible school, and we learned about the Bible. We learned about the Bible. I want you to take all of those classes that you've ever taken, and I want you to put them in a line. Just draw a line and write them all down on a piece of paper. This is an exercise I want you to engage in. If you can't engage, you're not able to engage in the conversation or this process right now, I want you to involve yourself in this process after you leave this podcast this evening. I want you to write every single one of them down. Now, on the top of every single one of those classes is what we call our American economic system. American economic system. What is the American economic system, you all? It's business. Did you ever, or were you ever required to take a business class? I want you to follow me. And I'm so serious about this because as I've coached and talked and taught conversations around how to become wealthy, how to make money, using strategies of building wealth, I've done that, but it really not necessarily always clicked. It's always been dampened. And it's been dampened because I understand what we've been taught. So we've been taught that if I get an A in English, if I get an A in history, if I get an A in any one of those classes, it meant that I was really intelligent and I could improve on my opportunity to go to the next level, maybe get scholarship to go to the next level, also to get awards because I was smart. But I want you to take all of those classes that you got A's in or not, And I want you to draw a line on the top of all of those classes. And over that line, I want you to put the American economic system. American economic system. Aaron, what does the American economic system engage you and I to understand? Business. Were you ever required to take a business class? I didn't say you went to the business class and you earned your MBA. I'm not saying that. What Aaron is saying is, were you required? Was there a standard that you have to take for business class? No. Did you ever have to take a personal finance class? They learn about credit. They learn about debt. They learn about amortization. They learn about debt to income ratio. No, wasn't required. Matter of fact, many schools never taught it. Part of the American economic system. Were you ever talked about inflation? No, wasn't a requirement. Were you ever taught about real estate? The different types of real estate? Were you taught about alpha standard deviation risk tolerance? Wasn't required. Remember, everything, American economic system, everything that you're doing in this country has something to do with economics. Every single thing. When you get up in the morning, as you brush your teeth, you're using toothpaste. Or if you use the restroom, there's tissue, there's toilet paper. Some company made it. That's stocks. Were you ever taught about stocks in school? No. Wasn't a requirement. You didn't get a credit for that. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Every single thing that has something to do with money, you do in this country, whether it's judicial, whether it's political, educational, spirituality, all of it has something connected with money, but you were never taught about money. You never had to take a class. It wasn't required. You didn't learn about the American economic system. I didn't get it till I was 41 years old. And boy, when I got it, when I started to understand it, it totally changed my perspective. It changed my attitude. It changed everything about my living. It allowed me to build that attitude of peace of mind, comfortability, not having to worry, maintaining my independence, improving my health, etc. So my value system became stronger because I knew the American economic system. I know how to win in the American economic system. That's why we're doing this podcast. So we're going to share in each one of these podcasts how you win financially. But in order for you to win in this country financially, you have to understand the American economic system. One of those systems is the Federal Reserve Bank. It's inflation. It's the cost of living going up. See, the cost of living always goes up. It never comes down, y'all. Think about it. When I bought my first home back in 1989. That property cost me and my wife $83,000. $83,000. That same house today is worth $380,000. That's called inflation. My first car that I purchased back in 1987, the year I graduated from college, $14,800. Mustang GT Ford. Today, that same vehicle is $78,000. That's inflation. That's the cost of living going up. Inflation happens in every sector of this country. Hospitality, airlines, grocery, doesn't matter. That's the cost of living going up. The cost of living will be higher for my grandchildren in 20 years than it is today. And what happens is we expect, follow me here, we expect that as inflation goes up, our wages go up. We expect our wages to go up. And ideally, wages have gone up. The minimum wage goes up, has been going up, right? Many of you are making more money, more income than you ever made. And many of you are still struggling because inflation has gone up a lot more than your wages. But in order to keep up with the pace of inflation, to be able to exceed inflation, you can no longer depend on your high income. You have to depend on multiple sources of income. That's for another conversation. We talked about that a lot. We talk about how do you create multiple streams of income? You have to create multiple streams of income. But we'll talk about that for another day. So prices rose a lot over the years, over the decades, and they haven't fell back because they don't. Do not expect prices to fall back. They won't fall back. Sad news, but reality. And once you begin to learn the American economic system, you'll know how to deal with it. Big essentials are dragging people down. Big essentials. The housing market is very expensive. It's much higher today than wages. Wages have not caught up to housing. It's dragging your economics and your household down. Many of you can't afford, especially if you're younger. I bought my first house when I was 26. 26. A 26-year-old today, based on housing costs, very difficult to purchase a home. And most of you are experiencing that. Most of you have kids that are experiencing that. Big essentials, utilities, insurance, groceries, all are way up. So your high income is being sucked up. It's being sucked up by the high expenses. On top of that, many of you, depending on your age, many of you are helping your kids out. Whether it's helping to send them to school, think about the college education cost. Think about it. Nothing has caught up. Wages have never been able to keep pace for the last 40 years, haven't caught pace with the cost of living going up for education. That's inflation. That's inflation. I was fortunate to go to college on a scholarship, athletic scholarship. So I wasn't much in tune to the cost of education. But I know at the university that I was going to, the cost of a education there for the entire year was $6,000. At that time, that was back in 1983. What is it today? Whether you are in-state, out-of-state, private school, it's very expensive. You've got to actually take out a mortgage. Think about it. People are taking out they're taking out more than what I spent on my first home just to get an education. And they're taking it out in loans. This is inflation. It's the cost of living going up. Here's what I want you to take away from our conversation today. Is that you got to do something about it. You can't complain about it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go down, you all. We have the highest deficit in this country, over 34 trillion in debt in this country right now. We have an aging population. People are living longer. Healthcare is more expensive. Would you follow me? Have you bought an automobile lately? Have you looked at a new automobile lately? Look at the cost. Inflation is not going to come down. How are you going to win? We're going to talk about that in our next podcast. How you win? How you win against this? Once you learn the American economic system, you will win. Not only will you win, you'll win big. You'll be more successful financially than you've ever thought. You think that you're making great income now? You'll make greater income. More important, you have so much knowledge on how to build more income that you'll be able to seed that knowledge over to your kids and your grandkids. And they will be more prepared because the cost of living is not going to go down. It's going to continue to go up. How about higher interest rates? Many of you have low interest rates on your mortgage, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%. Nice low interest rates. We're not there today. Are we going to get back there? Maybe not. Maybe not. See, but once you learn our American economic system and you have strategies to combat it, you won't care. You won't be worrying or looking to see if interest rates are going to come down. You know, Aaron, I hope the Federal Reserve drops interest rates. That's noise, you all. That's noise. See, when you learn the American economic system, you're not thinking like that. You don't care about how the interest rates ideally process up or down because you're going to have more income to satisfy your needs. See, don't underestimate knowledge, learning personal finance. Of all the classes that you've taken, this one is on your own. This one is on your own. You have to learn about personal finance. Go to our website. We have it. We have a course that you can take to help you and your kids learn about personal finance. Look here, let me be quite frank with you. I have put some tools together. I have invested our income, my wealth, to design an educational platform. I have a ebook that will be, hopefully I'll have that on my site in the next week or two. It talks about family wealth matters. Family wealth matters. Right? These things are really inexpensive. I am not looking to get wealthy from my podcast. I don't have to. My firm has $250 million under management and under advisement. We work with individuals, small businesses, nonprofits. We have a substantial amount of income that comes into our business. I have 5 employees. My son and my daughter are employed with my company, including my wife. We're a family business. We are successfully financially. So this podcast thing is for me to give back, to educate you. It's important to educate you because this country is not educating you about money. And almost every single thing that I'm seeing on social media, it speaks to how you going to get rich. They're giving you some scheme on how to get rich. That won't happen until you understand personal finance, till you understand how a business works, how you understand how to start a business, how you understand how to buy real estate, how you understand that buying real estate is important just in your primary home. So you understand how to buy stocks and bonds. What stocks and bonds should be important to you in your life? How to create a risk tolerance. How to be able to figure out the risk level on a portfolio, the standard deviation, the beta. Not until you get to understand those things are part of your wealth building strategy, which is the American economic system. And they have not taught you the American economic system because they don't want you to know it. It's only for a few. What's so amazing and beautiful about this country? Follow me here. Follow me. What's beautiful about this country is they don't restrict you from how much you can learn and how much wealth you can build. However, they keep it away from you. You have to search for it. I am Aaron Smith, your wealth coach. I'm excited always of sharing with you. My next podcast, I'm going to be talking about, what you going to be talking about, Aaron? Let's see here. I'm going to have a conversation with you. I want you to join me. I'm going to talk about, are you a problem solver? You don't want to miss that one because we're going to talk about problem solver and how you learn the problems that you can solve and how you attach your value to them. Right? This is an important one. Look forward to talking to you next time. God bless you. We'll see you soon.